Good morning, my dear sister.
Good morning, sister.
How are you doing?
I'm great today
Is there a particular reason why you're great today?
because I'm not in Florida today. I am
Oh,
actually in North Carolina and my grandkids are here. So there it is.
oh, that
I've
is
told the
so
truth.
sweet.
I
That
know
is
it's
so sweet that
playtime.
you get to play. But you know what? Now's not time for play.
I
Now
know.
is
I know.
time to podcast.
I
And
know.
we have an amazing guest today. I have followed our guest on LinkedIn because she's amazing. And she has so much wisdom and insight that she offers. And I am beyond thrilled to have, I'm not even going to say her name yet, to have her with us. So
It's a
I want
secret.
you to introduce our amazing guest. So excited, like fandom.
So I will say in advance, I will apologize to our guest because Natalie is a stalker on LinkedIn. So if you've never been her friend on
It's
LinkedIn,
polite persistence.
polite persistence, don't friend with her on LinkedIn. I'm only
Oh,
kidding.
hey, that's okay. Come on.
Friend with her because she actually is a fantastic LinkedIn buddy. So
Okay.
today we are honored and truly honored to have Lan Phan with us. She is an author and a speaker known for her expertise in purpose, mindset, and continuous improvement. And she's a caregiver. Her family has worked through the challenges of her mother's advanced stage dementia for over a decade, a diagnosis whose symptoms her mother initially managed to conceal, which is interesting in the early years. It was a critical scare that mobilized the family into caregiving, and they did that coast to coast. Lan, we are so happy to have you here with us today.
Hi, thanks so much, Natalie and JJ. So excited to be here.
Oh,
Great.
thank you so much. Go ahead, Jay.
So it sounds like, first of all, we want to get a little bit of background because when the scare happened, it was about family. As you said, family is what jumped in, but give us a little bit of background on you, your family.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I came right after the fall of Vietnam. So my family were Vietnamese refugees. So
Mhm.
when we came to the US, we literally came with like the clothes on our backs, and we
Mm.
came to San Francisco, and it was the churches that clothed us. It was like our community that kind of helped feed us. We ended up moving to LA. We moved between Inglewood, California and Hawthorne, California. My dad wasn't working, so it was my mom that was supporting us, a family of five of us total, as her income as a hairdresser. So she worked and supported our entire family, and she never made more than 15,000 a year.
Wow.
And she worked 7 days a week. Her hands would be just, from the chemicals, the dark chemicals from dyeing people's hair. Her hands were always cracked, but she'd be working constantly. So I was kind of hoping that she would be able to kind of retire as I got older, my brother got older. We started to kind of financially support her to kind of make sure she had a good life, and I think she had a good life for at least a few decades. My father actually passed away in my early
Mm.
20s, and my mom found love again when she was like 65.
Oh, I love
We love
that.
a love story.
We do
Yeah.
love a love story. We were
Like
talking about
love. What
somebody
is
with a love
that
story.
movie Love Note? Like she would get love letters from her suitor.
Oh, yeah. There's something to be said for that. If you remember like the love notes that people when they used to write, especially the military, like they would write these love
Yeah.
notes and all that stuff. I just love things like that.
Mhm.
Anyway. Um so you're that's so interesting. There's so many parallels in the story with your all story with our story, honestly. And we'll kind of point
Yeah.
them out as we kind of go along. But you mentioned that your mom, like, when did it start happening? Like, when did you all start seeing stuff? Because you and your siblings are, where's everybody at this point? Where are
Yeah.
your siblings at?
So I lived in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I asked for years if my mom wanted to move with me and my husband, and my daughter at the time. But she always wanted to stay in California because she had her own home, and she lived in that home,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't want to leave. And so my two brothers were in California, one in San Francisco, one in Los Angeles, not too far from her. So we had one brother that was nearby to deal with anything. And my mom, it started actually probably when she was in her 70s. She fell and broke her femur bone. And so that was probably the first time she almost died. So we were aware that for some reason she's falling, and we installed cameras in her house just so that we could look after her.
Right.
But one day, and this was probably about almost 10 years ago, I got a call from my brother, and he was just crying, like uncontrollably crying. And I hardly see my brother cry. I've probably seen him cry 2 or 3 times in my entire life.
Yeah.
And he was like, Mom is in the hospital. She's going to die. And I was like, what? She's like, she's had 4 strokes. And so I didn't even ask. I was in New York at this time. I had work the next day. I didn't care. Or it might have been even early on a Monday, on a work day. And I just got on a plane and I went there.
Absolutely.
Then I kind of found out everything that was happening. My mom has high blood pressure, has a slew of other health issues, but she stopped taking her medication. And because of that, she got multiple strokes. So I got into the emergency room because she was like literally on her deathbed.
Yeah.
They were just saying she had 4 strokes. I was like, how did that happen? Because she was vibrant. My mom at her late 70s walked the LA Marathon. She was in good health. We thought good mental state.
Yeah.
So I had called my boss at that time, who was the COO, and I was like, I have to be here for my mom. I don't know how long.
Yeah.
And if you need to fire me, you need to fire me. And they were like, okay, let's just see how it goes. So, one week became 2 months where I was in LA, and generously they let me work at home up to a certain point.
Right.
But during that time, I was just kind of it was to the point where I remember being in my mom's bedside with my brother. We're both just crying. My mom is like comatose, kind of like just, she's there, but she's not there. And the doctor was like, can you come with us? And so we were in a room with my brother, and they brought in the chaplain, through 2 other doctors, and like a counselor. And they're like, your mother's probably going to die in the next week or 2. And we just braced ourselves, and we didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But we just kind of like, okay. So I went home. I started going through my mom's things. And that's when I noticed there was like thousands and thousands of little notes with our phone numbers, with my mom, my daughter's birth date, with each of our names, because I think she was forgetting what our names was. So in order to cope, she would have all of these literally thousands of these little pieces of paper with my daughter's birth name, my birth date, my social, my phone number. Because I think she was, I'm away, I don't see this.
Yeah.
But she was coping by writing everything down.
Yeah.
But it would be all spread throughout the house. And because we thought my mom only had a few weeks left, I was cleaning through her stuff, and she wasn't a hoarder. She was very clean, but she was collecting everything. And I think it was like memories, right? Like I was just looking through things, and I remember cleaning through some of her clothes, and I found this tissue box, and I was looking at it, and I was like, I don't know. I put my hand in it, and there was money in it. And it was like $1,000. So my mom was hiding money, like hoarding cash, different things within the house. I don't know if she wasn't, she started to get paranoid about going to the bank. And I just was like, how did I not know? Because when I talked to her, she seemed like she was the same mother that I've always had, the one that worries a lot and, always asks me to eat. And so that was kind of long story short, she ended up recovering. She started, it was a miraculous recovery.
Wow.
And she started to kind of slowly gain mobility, but we realized my mom could not live alone anymore. And she was about 80, like 81, 82 at that time. But before that, she had just walked the LA Marathon like a few years prior to that. She was mobile. She was, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just her, and then her partner would come and sleep over, like maybe once or twice a week. But then we realized he was just as needing help.
Yeah.
And it was my mom that was taking care of him.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So I was there for 2 months just trying to figure things out, and starting from ground zero.
So your mom she had been living independently. I mean, was she still driving, just life as normal?
She stopped driving probably when I was in my 20s because my father had gotten a car accident, got a heart attack, and she was paranoid of driving. So she stopped driving early on, but she would take the bus. Like she would take the bus all over up until her early 80s.
Yeah.
And anywhere she'd go like to Santa Ana, which was like 30 miles away just by bus.
Yeah.
So she was super independent.
Oh yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
So you guys, I want to get a little backstory too. So you have moved to New York. You moved to New York at some point, and you started this amazing career. I mean, you've got things going on. You've got a full life there. How are you and your siblings, especially because your dad passed early on, and your mom stayed single, essentially. Yeah. Our dad passed when he was 58, and so for the last 12 years, our mom also, like, she had friends, but that was their friends. You got to love the different generation. Like it was literally this is my friend. He's a male friend. And, and our mother would always be like, he's a friend.
Exactly.
And we'd be like, okay. Like, I don't want to think about that, but thank you for that trauma. And so I know that you've got, how old was your daughter at the time? Because you said that you had your daughter, because I know she's still young. I mean,
she was probably around 3 or 4 at that time. It was actually good that she was that young because she didn't notice. I mean, I think if I were to do that now with my daughter who's at 9, she would totally be impacted. But because she was so young, she wasn't at that age where she missed me as much because she had my father. And I think my mother-in-law had actually flew to New York to help. You have another caregiver. My mother-in-law flew in to help with my husband and my daughter because I had left for 2 months.
Wow.
And he had work.
Yeah.
So he just said, go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Because with our family, it's like when my husband and I got married, we were very specific that family comes first.
Wow.
Yeah. I would do the same for his mother-in-law or my mother-in-law. My mother now.
We've had people come on before, and they've said that when you find a partner, when you find someone, that is so important to decide that those values are similar. Because if you have someone who doesn't see that family is very important, and then you need to step into a caregiver role, sometimes that's not understood. That it's, that's, she needs to you need to pay for help. And so that's amazing that you've kind of left this 3-year-old, but also that your mother-in-law has stepped in to care for this 3-year-old.
And my husband also flew in with our daughter at one point, and he helped out too. Like he helped with my mother's caregiving because it was difficult because with the dementia, they start losing bodily function. I think it was also a combination of the dementia and the stroke. So she needed to wear Depends. So she couldn't shower herself. She couldn't do the things that she used to be able to do easily just years prior. Yeah.
Wow. So what was this is interesting to me because I think about when Jason and I got married years ago. We never thought to have the conversation about caring for someone else. Like, and I don't think from culturally, like where our background is, you support your loved one. Like no one went to like skilled nursing. That was where our mother fully believed that's where you went to die. And that's what we had seen. There was no assisted living back then. And so it's interesting because you do. I mean, my aunt took care of her mom and dad, and she had 4 brothers. So you're kind of in a similar place. What is the dynamics like between you and your siblings as your mom is aging? And did you all have intentional conversations about like, okay, this is who's in charge. This is who's going to make decisions. How do we make decisions as a team?
I mean, we were just kind of figuring it out as we were going. And one of my brothers, Van, was very organized, and so he had a spreadsheet, and he basically had tasks. He had created like a blogger site that was just private to us, where it's like, here's mom's medication, here's this. My other brother, who I love, but he's not as organized, was also married. And so there's other issues around that I won't go into, but it was difficult. So even though he was close, I had to fly to New York. My other brother had to once in a while come to Los Angeles from San Francisco. But then we all have jobs, and it's not like work from home was as prevalent as it was. I didn't have my business at that time. I was working for a company.
Yeah.
And so it was just, what we ended up doing was finding a 24/7 caregiver.
Wow.
Right? Because I was in New York. I couldn't move here because my job was in New York. My brother had full-time job. He couldn't be a caregiver, but my mom needed 24/7 caregiving. So we pulled in funds and we paid for a live-in caregiver. And we did that probably for 5 years until it got too much for the caregiver, because my mom is advanced stage dementia now, where she doesn't recognize us. She will hallucinate. She sometimes would get violent. I mean, violent as much as an 87-year-old can get violent, right? And so we had to make that difficult choice. And she's now actually in a memory care facility, and she's thriving. So I just want to put it out there, because I felt the same way. My mom initially didn't want to go to a memory care facility. And we have these notions of what these care facilities look like, that they're horrible, that people get neglected. But there are some really, really good ones. And we found one that specialized in dementia care. And the caregiving is beyond, I can't even describe it. Because my mom got to a point where she was in the ER every week, because she'd literally fall, break something, or fall. And because once that dementia gets really bad, let's say you're the caregiver and you're sleeping. My mom is up at 3 a.m. till 6 a.m. walking around. And we put double locks so she couldn't go out. But there's been times where the caregiver was taking a shower. My mom would walk out and start wandering the neighborhoods. It wasn't safe for her to be home. And, even if you had family who was living there, I don't think it would have been enough.
Let me stop real quick, because we need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. I don't know about you, but my inbox is always cluttered with useless emails. But there's one I always open: the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver newsletter. You may say, Natalie, what makes yours so special? Well, I'm biased, but don't just take my word for it. Here's what our subscribers say they love. First, it comes once per month, and you can read it in under 5 minutes. Next, you'll find amazing tips and resources to use in your everyday life. And who doesn't love a recommendation? These sisters do, which is why we share sister-approved products and discount links to save you time and money. And of course, you're first to know about the upcoming month's confessions. Just like our show, you're guaranteed to relate, be inspired, leave with helpful tips and resources, and of course, laugh. Go to our website, confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com, to sign up for our newsletter today.
Hey, everybody. We are back here today with Lan Phan, and we're talking about, even if you have someone, a family member or a paid professional, living with your loved one full time, sometimes it's not enough, and you have to make that decision to move them into a higher skilled facility. And that's a hard decision, Lan. I know we had that decision we had to make with our mom. I mean, it was actually last March. But you said you moved her into that specialized facility. So tell us a little bit about that, because I'm always, for me, family wise, there was a lot of guilt, grief moving her into that. How did you all, what was that family decision like? Were you all in agreement at that time?
Yes, we were all in agreement at that time, because we realized even if we were to try to get another, because a caregiver, I think it got too much for her. And this caregiver was she was there treated my mother like my mom she was her daughter kind of thing. And so, but it got to a point where she couldn't pick my mom up every time she fell.
Yeah.
So she'd have to call the emergency room.
Yeah.
And I'm in New York, my brothers are at work, right? And it just got too much. And my mom's dementia was getting really advanced where she was just belligerent, all like just would think that people were after her. She would hallucinate. She was getting washing her hand, like where her skin was kind of falling off. And we were just at the point where we just didn't know what to do. So even though there's the time where I would go for like a week, 2 weeks to relieve the caregiver when she needed a break, it got too much for me because I was like, this is like, you can't be somewhere 24/7 looking after this person and then also not sleeping because she will wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And when you try to put her to bed, she will fight you, like literally fight you. And so one of the biggest tips I could provide is it's a lot easy. Okay, the first one, before your parents are ready or need the care, do your research. Go into, we visited, between me and my two brothers, we went to probably over 100 facilities and just viewed them.
Yeah.
Hey, can we get a walkthrough? Before we needed to, figured out what the pricing was. And it ranges, you know. And my brother found one that was actually not too far from his home. But there was a wait list. A lot of these facilities, the good ones, have long wait lists.
Right.
So what he did was he just built a relationship with the director and just brought a connection and just explained our story. And so we had something kind of lined up so that there was a relationship with this facility. And that was actually a tip that we had gotten from another friend who happened. The other piece of advice that this friend gave us, which I think is key, it's a lot easier to get your parents into a facility when they're in the emergency room or when they're at a hospital than when they're at your home. I didn't know that. Like, who knows those things, right? So my mom had fallen probably for the 6th time, and she was in the ER, and our friend was, don't take her home. And it, as a parent, as a daughter, you're like, oh, that's horrible. But he was like, don't take her home. Because when you take them out, all of the casework, support, all of the social work that happens in the hospital goes away. So you don't have anyone advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
So when she was in there, and it was true, I was in New York. I was like, I'm in New York. No one is there to protect, because they cannot take my mother home, even though she's fine, back to her home if no one is there to take care of her.
That's right.
And you have to be adamant. And I remember I got a call from one of the doctors, and he was like, you need to take your mom home. I'm like, I'm in New York. My brother, and he was in Hawaii. I was like, we don't have anyone. I was like, well, we are working with the social worker to get my mom into a facility.
Yeah.
And he was like, how? And I remember, because he was also a Vietnamese doctor. He was like, you don't do that. And he was trying to guilt trip me. He was like, we don't do that to our parents. Like, basically saying that, when these seniors go to these homes, they die. This is a doctor telling me that. And I was like, I was adamant. My mom would have died in the next year if she was at home.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I was there, a caregiver. She was like living such an isolated life because we couldn't take her anywhere because she would have bowel movements and we couldn't get her in and out of the car. She wasn't living, she was basically at home in her recliner chair or bed, going back and forth, and we would feed her. She was not having an existence that was remotely how it is now. Yeah. And so I was adamant. I was like, my mom, I'm working with the social worker. And so I worked with the social worker, and I was like, look, I can't bring my mom home. I'm in New York. So you have to find me a place. And they were like, okay. And so literally they advocated for me, and they like looked around, and they were like, okay, we can get her, we can help subsidize this, through, my mom was on, is it Medicaid or Medicare? I forget which one. Medicare?
It's probably Medicare. And if she had a lower income, she could have been dual enrolled. So she would have been Medicare and Medicaid because if she was still kind of a low, because she didn't generate a lot of income her entire life.
No, she had no income, like literally zero income.
And I'm going to tell you right now, Lan, this is how you all probably did it was the best thing for her to have no income, honestly, and you guys are helping to supplement because you have to, and I say this respectfully, you have to trick the system. Our system does not support, Medicare does not pay for skilled nursing. It is Medicaid that does. And you have to lose everything to get care.
Essentially, yes. And I mean, not fortunate, but my mom had nothing. So we did.
Exactly. I mean, honestly.
Yeah. So literally what we did, she was like, but here are the different hospitals. If you find someone that has an open bed, we will arrange things. Yeah. And I was like, okay. My brother had already went to all of these facilities and he found one. He went to the director and was like, look, my mom, and he told him the situation. And the director, even though there was a long waiting line, because he had built this relationship with my brother, he was like, get her in.
Wow.
And then when it happened like this. And now my mom is thriving. It's an amazing center. There's like 24/7 nurse. There's walkways where you can walk around. Everyone waves to my mom. Everyone knows who she is. So I'm just saying, sometimes we have these stigma about what care looks like. Mm-hmm. And yes, there are horrible places that we should send parents to, but there's also these amazing places. But you have to do your research. Mm. Yeah, but she's thriving now. Like literally, she's just, she walks around all the time. The nurses there all know her. She's like a mini celebrity in the facility.
Well, now I know where she gets it from, or where you get it from, that your mom is a mini celebrity. And I love that, honestly. Yeah. So you all, now is your mom's in New York though, right?
No, my mom? Mm-hmm. No, my mom is in California.
Okay, so for some reason, I'm sorry about that.
I live in New York.
Yeah, no, but I thought that you'd moved your mom to New York. I've seen some photos in the past, and I didn't know if she was in New York or if she was in California.
Yeah, that was in California. That's me visiting Like for the past decade, anytime I visited, I had to have to fly to California. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I would go at least 2 or 3 times a year, except for COVID. And I didn't see her for like 3 years almost.
Yeah.
So so I know that you had the crisis with your mom and work said, okay, we'll pause. Cause this is all pre-pandemic before,
work from
everybody
home.
work from home and you've got Zoom and everything is advanced. And so what happened from a work standpoint related
So they
to
were
caregiving?
patient to a point.
Right.
Then after 2 months, I basically got a call from my boss and she was like, you either have to come back or we have to let you go.
Yeah.
And so I had to go. And that's what kind of where we started to rush and just like, okay, we need a 24/7 caregiver. And that was a whole horror story in itself. Make sure you do your due diligence because we got desperate. And so we were looking for one that spoke Vietnamese because even though my mom spoke English, French, different languages when she was younger, with the dementia, she would only speak Vietnamese. Yeah. So she went back to her native language, I guess. And so we needed to find one that spoke Vietnamese who could cook our traditional kind of foods. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't know where to start. So we put like an ad in the Vietnamese kind of local publication. We got hundreds of people, responding. And, we talked just a lot of like flaky people in the world, I'm realizing. Yeah. And I remember talking and I was like, oh, wow, this woman's amazing. So we went all the way like 30 miles to this other city called Santa Ana. And I met with her and I was like, this woman is lovely. She was like, I should be a nanny, da, da, da. She had pictures of and I was like, okay. And I was like, come the next day just to meet my mom. She's like, okay. Something in my gut said, look her up. And I had, thank goodness, taken a photo of her driver's license. I went home. This is the day she's supposed to come. I Google her name. There was wanted signs all over on the internet. Basically, she would do these scams where she would be a caregiver, a nanny, take care of elderly people, and then start taking their identities, their social security.
Wow.
And she was wanted in Texas, in Chicago. And I was like, I almost let this woman in our home.
Yeah.
But I was so desperate at that time. My brother was desperate. Don't trust your gut instinct sometimes, or trust your gut instinct, but also do your due diligence and check.
Yeah.
There are companies that do background checks. We were
Yeah.
just so desperate because I had to come back to work or get fired. Right. Yeah. And we dodged a bullet. Miraculously, things, through prayer or divine intervention, a few days later, through referral, like a friend's friend, we found someone, and she ended up being my mom's caregiver for the next 5 years. Basically, lived with my mom for 5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So she only had one then. This person was her sole
She only had
person.
one. Yeah, yeah.
And you had her for 5 whole years. That is a long time.
Yeah, I think part of it too was just that, we got lucky, I think. And the woman had family. She was kind of older. She's kind of maybe in her 60s. So someone kind of older taking care of my mother. But she also, she was also a refugee. She didn't have many other skills. She didn't drive too. So that was an issue. But she would walk my mom around the place, and she lived there. So she needed a home too, because she was kind of, it just kind of worked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, our mom was the same. So in the sense of after our dad passed, our mom wanted to just be as independent. She had an arm's length distance on us. And as she needed more help, she would just say, if I could just find someone to live with me, if I could just find someone who could, and we fully supported that. Like what you did is, I think a lot of people would want to do, and then trying to figure out how do you find those people. And now there's services like, care.com and all that kind of stuff, which they're not a sponsor, but you can be clearly. And, but you've got these groups that help find people and do background checks. I think what I keep hearing you saying, and we're going to take a break, is do background checks, be proactive in your activities. But I'm going to hold that thought. I'm going to take a break real quick. And then Jay, let's come back. This is so good. Hey ladies, I need to interrupt for just a second to share about the Sisterhood membership. It's basically a sale every day. And the best part, it's free. Here's the details. We're partnering with our friends at Benefit Hub and other care partners to save you money. With over 200,000 participating companies across the U.S. and abroad, you'll find discounts at your favorite local stores, huge savings on vacations, amazing deals on home, auto, and supplemental insurances, and everything in between. Go to confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com to sign up, and then definitely tell your friends about it. They can join too. Trust me, there's a discount for everyone. And don't forget, it's free. Okay, back to confessing.
Hey, everybody, we are back here with Lan Phan, and she has given us some fantastic tips already. Like Natalie said before we took our break, a lot of it is just about being prepared with nursing home, with skilled nursing facilities, with getting caregivers. Never wait till the last minute. But Natalie, it is really time that we get into, Lan, we need to talk about you and how this impacted you. Now, we talked about work, and it sounds like they gave you a little bit of leeway and that initially you rushed trying to find a caregiver. You did find someone that sounds like she was phenomenal. Did you leave that job? Or did you save that job because you were able to get a caregiver? What happened with work? Because we have a lot of people that I'm self-employed, and that was the only way we could manage the care with mom because Natalie's full-time. Tell me about a little bit about the work path and what that took you to.
Yeah. So I ended up going back, and I guess I don't want to say saved my job, but then they took me back, and but with a price, because I was not only caregiving with my mom, as the sandwich generation that we're in right now. I was also taking care of a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
And so at that time, I was kind of on the fast track, and I was still pretty senior there, but I was supposed to get this group EVP kind of a big title, right? Like basically be on the executive team. And it's funny, as soon as I had my daughter and as soon as things happened with my mom, I kind of got relegated within the chain I was no longer a rising star. And, you know, I mean, the company that I was working for was a little bit toxic in general. You know, my coworkers and I would call it the Hunger Games. The CEO would really enjoy kind of people fighting to the death.
Wow.
But that's company culture.
Yes.
Retention thought.
So I moved within different parts of the organization, but what I realized too is that besides you get what, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks of vacation time. It wasn't that much time to visit my mom and see her. Yeah. So I would maybe see her once or twice a year. And so I ended up quitting that job just because of various factors. But one of them was I didn't have freedom. And so I ended up quitting that job. I ended up working for another place. I'm sorry, I have my cough.
That's okay.
And I ended up starting my own company. I'm so sorry. And I started my own company because I needed more freedom. And I realized that was one of my values, was that I needed to really be there for my family, yet I wasn't spending time with them at all. Yeah. And so I started my own company out of necessity, partly because I got laid off at the beginning of the pandemic. But after that, I remember I had this pivotal point where I was like, do I find another job, right? Because I had been kind of on this C-suite path. And I was like, no, I want freedom. Yeah. I want to be able to see my family or travel if I need to. And so I started my own company. And one of the first things I decided to do was once the COVID ban got lifted and we could travel, I would spend the summer. So I always take the summers off to spend with my mom. So I go to LA and I bring my daughter and she gets to spend time with her grandmother. So we go and we visit her every day at the memory care facility. And sometimes we take her out. So that, yeah, I basically, like you, JJ, had to leave corporate and start my own business in order to kind of create the life that I really wanted to live, which is being present for my family.
Wow. Now that's the money right there. That is like, if you really think about it, and I know there's probably so many people listening and feeling like, God, I wish I could do that. I'm not going to lie to you. I think, how do I really live? This comes back to, our younger sister says this all the time. I want to live my best life. And we laughed about it yesterday. Emily's got new eyebrows. And she needed them because you couldn't see any. And so that's a part of her living her best life. And she said to me last night on the phone, I can't believe I waited so long. And I think about that statement. I can't believe I waited so long. Like, why did I wait? And I think, you've been on the C-suite path and pushed up. I mean, JJ and I have both been executives, and we know the pressure that we feel, especially as women. Like, there's so much pressure. I think that's amazing, to be honest with you. It's inspiring.
I mean, I think you can't wait. And I think it was 2 years, 3 years, I forget how long. I wasn't able to see my mom due to COVID. And when I finally went to visit her, it just felt like a weight had lifted. But there also a tremendous sense of guilt because I realized my mom's dementia was advancing. And there was times where she didn't remember me. And I had just I thought about my mother and her life. She had sacrificed so much for our family. And, my father and her relationship wasn't the ideal relationship, but I remember her telling me when she was younger, I'm staying in this relationship because of you, the family, and keeping our family together. And I just think about all of her her dreams that didn't come true. Being able to travel the world, being able to have a career outside of what she was doing because of us. And, I started thinking and having this reflection about my life, that life is so short and that tomorrow is not promised. And even if you do live, will you be there mentally? Will you be capable of doing the things you really wanted to do? And so that's kind of what inspired me to write my book and to do this next phase of my life, because I had told myself I want to write a book probably since I was in high school, but I gave up on the dream. I gave up on the dream because I was like, I'm a mom. I don't have time. I have work. who has the time?
Yeah.
And so that's when I started earnestly writing. And I actually started posting on LinkedIn.
Right.
Because before that, I had been posting as Community of Seven, my company. But then I was posting as myself. And so I started growing kind of on LinkedIn. And my first post was about my mother and visiting my mom. And then I started just posting every day. Because I've always kind of considered myself more of an introvert. I've always considered myself more behind the scenes. And that period made me realize that I needed to live a bigger life. And that if I wanted to be a person that impacted the world and helped other people, I needed to own my voice. And I needed to, in some ways, do it for my mother, right? So stop living a small life, because that's what my mom did. I mean, I love her. She impacted so many people that she, everywhere she went, people would just say, oh, your mother's so great. Even though she never made that much money, whenever she went to Vietnam, she basically saved up her money and helped build this temple, this Buddhist temple in Vietnam. She gave money to the poor. And my mom never made more than $15,000 a year, but she somehow saved and would help other people. So she did live a great life, but I don't know if she was ever happy. Like, I don't know if she ever was able to do the things that I'm doing now, travel, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm in that phase where I'm just trying to live my life. Like, every moment is, yeah.
That's beautiful. I sit there. I always like to take notes, and I'm just sitting here like live
and I'm like
bigger.
crying, like as I'm talking to you guys.
No.
Like, whenever I think about my mom, I always get like baby again.
Yeah. Yeah. Every moment is precious. And I think we realize that with our mom as well. And I look at you guys, though, and as I listen to you talk about your brothers and about yourself, and I think that there's a lot of things you've said about your mom, but she has to know that the life that she created for you all, that's allowed you to live out a lot of her dream, Lan. And I just think that's beautiful. She gave her all. And yeah.
Gosh, I'm going to tell you, Jay, we'll have to have Lan come back on, because honestly, this is so good. I'm like, the nuggets of wisdom. I love the nuggets.
She's like a full I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to get, I need, like, now we got to talk about a book. I got a question.
I'm like, okay, but we're going to do sister questions.
Okay. All right.
We're going to do sister questions.
I'm ready.
Okay. You go first.
Okay. I'm going to go to the book, but I'm only going to let her give me one tip. Okay. So, Lan, the name of the book is Do This Daily.
Yes.
Is this okay? Do this daily, and then give me the rest of it, because it's long.
Secrets Defining Success, Happiness, and Purpose in Work and Life.
Okay, I was like, I have it written down, but I'm going to let her say it. I need a Cliff Note version. What is one secret that you would tell listeners, caregivers, everyone out there?
Good one.
Give me a good secret.
It's what we do daily. So we become what we do daily, and the most important thing is to just start. Start scared, start where you're at. Don't wait. Life is short and tomorrow's not promised. So just start. It's like that first step is always so scary.
Yeah.
But when we take it, we're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. And then you keep on going, Same thing as caregiving. It was overwhelming as heck when we first started. But each step got a little bit easier as we gained the knowledge.
Wow. Just start. I love it.
I like that. Just start. Yeah. Start scared.
That's easy. And just start.
Yeah. You're never going to be ready.
Yeah. Just do it.
Just do it. You're never going to be ready, and you're right. Okay, so this is such an easy one, because this is my favorite question, Lan. What is your favorite guilty pleasure? The thing that you do just for you?
Definitely being alone. Like, I don't get a lot of alone time. So sometimes I just wake up early in the morning, like 5 a.m, 6 a.m, and just the silence. I love that, just the silence in the air, and just being able to meditate and to breathe and to journal. So the alone time.
Yeah. Oh, I do like the alone time.
It's my heart. I love that. I love to be by myself.
No, I feel like it's a little
tell my
bit
husband.
And I'm the same way. Don't tell my husband. When I'm always like, Jason says, hey, I'm going to go out with my friend Chris for Friday night. And I'm like, go. Please go.
Funny, but for every Mother's Day, we have a tradition, and I just tell my husband, I'm going to get a hotel somewhere and just spend the night alone. And then you could bring Morgan like in the morning, the next day on Mother's Day. Because it's just having that a little bit of alone time is so important. Yeah. Just to do whatever, read a book, watch a movie.
Love that.
Do anything that you want to do because there's no one that expects anything from you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
Wow.
I love that. Okay. I can't believe we're already at the end. Lan, we love you.
Thank you
Definitely our
so
newest
much.
sister. I love that you're our newest sister, honestly.
Yeah, I know.
And then I'm
Our
going to
new
put all
sister.
over LinkedIn, like Lan's my bestie.
I
and
love that.
It's going to be really awkward, and you'll be like, it's fine. But, Lan, thank you so much for being with us. This is so wonderful. We are going to make sure your book and all your connections, because I'm going to tell you, friends, absolutely follow Lan. The guidance and the love that she puts into her post is so encouraging. I always walk away from it. I definitely share it with people. I'll be like, oh, I just somehow, it's almost like, it's almost like when I read the Bible, exactly what I need is exactly there. And there's times when I'm playing around on LinkedIn and I'm looking and I'm thinking, oh, get to meet cool people. But I'll see a post and I'll be like, ooh, how did she know that was just for me today?
Yeah.
It's funny that you mention it because I actually based it on the Daily Word, which is this publication that's been around for decades. And it's basically a prayer or a proverb or whatnot.
Yeah.
And then an analysis of it. So it's about joy, about happiness, about fear. And I wanted to kind of create a Daily Word for professionals on LinkedIn. So it's funny that you mentioned the whole prayer God kind of thing, because that was my motivation.
Now that is on point.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. And Lan, thank you for being with us today. We'll make sure you get all Lan's contact information in the show notes. Everybody have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time when we confess again. Thank you.
Goodbye.